Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So today I have a pen from the now defunct OMAS. OMAS went under a number of years ago, and although they may now in 2018 August are potentially being revived and may come back, they have been dormant for a number of years, and that has sent some of the prices of OMAS pens going literally through the roof. So I managed to pick up this OMAS recently from a close friend at our London fountain pen club, Gary. And Gary had bought this a while ago. It's a lovely OMAS pen, and he was looking to sell it. So let me just show you this pen. So this isn't new, and that's going to be the case with a lot of OMAS pens, and I'll show you why in a little bit. So if I remove this lovely lid, what you do have inside, and I always love this with OMAS, is they say Italian creativity, history, craftsmanship, and the pleasure of writing. And I have to say that generally OMAS pens are a pleasure to write with. At least most of the OMAS pens that I have tried have been a pleasure to write with. So this is the pen. It comes with a OMAS single pen sleeve here, so I can actually put the pen likewise in this pen sleeve and carry it around with me. I do like these pen sleeves. To be honest, I don't really use them because I tend to carry more than one pen around, but if you want to protect your pen, then I guess that's a very good way. So let me just move that out of the way. Now this is the pen. It's an OMAS Ogiva cocktail, and it's called the Blue Angel, and these cocktail versions of the Ogivas are basically made after a number of different cocktails. And this it's a lovely, lovely blue, stunning pen, and this kind of actually reminds me a little bit of the new Platinum 3776 Compu, and the reason why is that it has this like ribbed like texture to the body and to the cap. And although the Platinum 3776 Compu is more waves that go round the barrel more, and these are more like horizontal, or if you have the pen out that way, I guess it's vertical, but sort of like straight line, ribbed lines here, but it gives a bit of a texture to it. Now this is a piston filling pen, and the majority of OMAS pens are, and I do like piston fillers. It is also transparent, or you could say translucent, and it is a really nice pen. And I'll tell you in a little while why I picked this pen up. So the pen was being sold, and as I said, prices do go through the roof. And the price that was being requested was a little higher than I would like to pay, and the reason being is I actually have another Ogiva. Now if I remove this, and on the underside there's a 2-pen tray, so if I put the Blue Angel here, I actually have an Ogiva Arco, and I actually picked it up for, at the time, a really, really good price, and it was actually going to be less than what the cocktail was. So I didn't want to spend as much or more for the cocktail. So Gary actually came back to me recently and said, "Hey, look, are you still interested in it? Because I'd still like to sell it." And I said, "Well, maybe we can do a deal." So that's exactly what we did. We did a pen trade, or a pen swap, and Gary got a lovely Conway Stewart, and I got a lovely Ogiva cocktail, and it is a very nice pen. So let me move this pen out of the way, and I'll just put this back. But in the meantime, you do actually get a OMAS card, and likewise you get a number of different. There's no manual as such, but just cards there. But I'll show you the reason why I like this. I test ridden with this pen a number of times before, and it writes very well. And if I can try and zoom in a little bit, I'll show you here. When I uncap this nib, you'll see here the amount of tipping on that nib. Now, if you look on the shoulder here of the nib, you'll see it says 52 degrees. And this is actually a 52 degree nib grind. And this basically gives you a very, very broad nib. I would say it's closer to a double board. Very wet, very juicy. You have the ebonite feed there that is renowned for on OMAS pens, but it is so nice. It's such a nice writer, and you can kind of see the angle there on the tipping itself. That it is a slightly cut out sort of different type of angle, but this nib writes beautifully. And like I said, it is a piston filler, so you do have the piston in there. Now you can see through it a little bit. You have the piston up to about here, and then it's actually running a little bit low on ink. And strangely enough, I actually refilled this only yesterday, but I've written a couple of letters since with it, and it is such a juicy wet nib, and you'll see that in a moment. Now, there's only really one downside here to the pen, and I'll show you here. It's it doesn't really bother me, but there is a slight amount of flaking here on the cap on the actual clip, and it's just that the plating has sort of flaked off a little bit, maybe a little bit of corrosion, but that doesn't really bother me. You're going to get this on used pens, and to be honest, I've picked up some used pens that are much, much worse than that. So I can always get that replated if I want to. Maybe I can get another clip. So that doesn't bother me at all. And I'm just so glad that Gary wanted to do the trade. So thanks, Gary. We are good friends now, and I really am pleased that we were able to do this trade in the end. So so that's really it. It's a lovely pen. Maybe not everybody's cup of tea. Like, not everybody likes demonstrators or transparent or translucent pens, but for me, I do prefer a demonstrator or a pen that is like semi-translucent or transparent, because you can see the ink in there. Likewise, because it's not a clear barrel, you have a less of a risk of staining or seeing any ink that stains. And for anybody that's worried about the possibility of ink staining demonstrator pens, yes, it is a distinct possibility. Ink does have dye in it, and if you've ever spilt a bottle of ink over any kind of material and you've tried to wash it out, you cannot get all of the dye out. So by ink's nature, it has a lot of dye in it, and it will potentially stain demonstrators over time. So I do like to see the ink and how much ink I have left in the pen, and to have a sort of like semi-translucent or opaque, semi-opaque demonstrator like this. I think it actually I actually prefer that than having a pen where I cannot see the ink level remaining, because the amount of times I run out of ink in a pen when I thought it was half full and it's actually now literally running on fumes. So so I do like that. Now, in terms of, I'll show you the length, the width, and do some weight comparisons, but I just want to show you here in my hand that if I move the light back a bit, so here it's actually very actually fitting for my hand. I don't have large hands, I have chunky hands. I can post this cap if I want to, and then it does become a little bit long. OMAS pens typically are super lightweight, and you'll see that in a moment. So for me, having this posted like so, doesn't bother me weight-wise at all. And to be honest, it really doesn't feel that much heavier. Obviously it is, but it just doesn't feel that much heavier. So let's do a length check, and then we'll do a weight. So in terms of length, we're looking at around about 145 millimeters capped, and then uncapped we are looking at about 128, 130 millimeters, and then the cap itself we're looking about 70 millimeters. So about 128, 130 is actually a good size for a pen. I prefer my pens to be around about that length. So let's do a weight check as well. So this does have a little bit of ink in the pen. It's not fully inked. I'd say it's probably got about a third of the ink in there. So just under 23 grams there for the pen, inked up. The cap we're looking at just over 9 grams. And then the body itself we're looking at just under 12.5 grams. So 12.5 grams for a pen in your hand without it being posted is actually a really, really good length, I would say. So I think let's do a writing sample. So this is the OMAS Ogiva cocktail. As you can see, this is quite a marker pen of a nib. And this is a 52 degree nib. And the ink in this pen is Franklin, Christoph, Spanish Blue. Now, in terms of the line variation, now you will get a little bit of line variation, but I think if we just do the normal verticals, now if I apply a bit more pressure, I can get some line variation going on here. In terms of the horizontals, you can see by the writing here that it's quite a broad nib. Now if I try to write more vertical, you will see there that the line gets more different as you go down. Now in terms of line variation, like, you're not normally going to get a lot of line variation out of the pen. It is a gold nib, but and I don't want to push this very far. It's a super wet nib, or at least for me anyway. So I think if we do a wetness test, that to me is quite a wet nib, and it's just a lovely smooth nib to write with. So this for me is one of these pens where I find the writing experience absolutely generous and gorgeous. I like smooth nibs, I like wet nibs, I like juicy nibs, and this writing experience from this OMAS Ogiva cocktail doesn't disappoint at all. So there you have it. This is a review of my OMAS Ogiva cocktail with a 52 degree nib. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.